Back, all you awakened savages, and today's an important video because we're going to be talking about being the bloodline breaker and breaking those generational curses. Because men out there are battling demons that entered their bloodline over 200 years ago, and they don't even realize it. Yeah, it's crazy, right? So you could be carrying trauma from more than 7 generations back, and you don't even know it. Right? And there's a reason that you feel this weight that you carry. And it's not just your pain. You're dragging the pain and the chains from your father, your great grandfather, and so on that they never broke. So see that anger, that addiction, that fear of never being enough. This isn't just random. You were born into it, but you were also born to end that shit. Right? Somebody in your family has to be the one who changes everything. So why not let that be you? That's why you're here. It's time to step up. Because most men go through life haunted by patterns they don't even see. Right? The anger that just fucking flares up for nothing. The need to shut down when things get hard. The urge to numb out with work, screens, food, booze, porn, gambling, you name it. Right? We call this just being a man. But that's bullshit. Right? And that's a lie that keeps you locked in a cycle that you didn't even start in the first place. Right? And if we look at the science of it, trauma is not just something that happened to you, it's something that lives in you. So when your father fucking exploded into rage or went cold and silent, right? When your grandfather numbed himself out with work, alcohol, or whatever, their nervous systems changed. Their bodies pumped out stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, again and again. Over time, that doesn't just change the mood, it rewires the brain. Right? Neural pathways for fight, flight, and freeze, they get laid down, reinforced, and handed off like a baton in a relay race. And that's not just some metaphor. This is actual epigenetics. Right? Scientists have proven that intense stress or trauma can flip genetic switches, right? Turning on or off the expression of those certain genes. And those changes get passed down to the next generation and so on. Right? That means that you can inherit your father's hairline, but also his anxiety, right? His way of responding to conflict, his inability to trust, his compulsion to shut down or go fucking mental, right? The body keeps score, right? And the next player inherits the rules. But this isn't just about biology, it's also psychology too. So as a kid, you watched your father handle anger, pain, shame, and stress. Right? Maybe you swore, you know what, I'm never going to be like my dad. Or maybe you idolized him. Either way, you learned by watching. If he avoided hard conversations, right, you'll probably learn to stay silent when things get fucking tough. If he let anger control the room, you could pick up the same tactics, or you shrank, hoping not to draw that fucking fire. Right? This is what's called intergenerational modeling. Right? Our beliefs about ourselves, I'm broken, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I have to prove my worth, I'm doomed to repeat the past. They get programmed early and deep, right? These beliefs become the script for our whole fucking adult lives. And unless you consciously see them, challenge them, and rewrite them, you'll keep playing the same role, even if you fucking hate it. Okay? And this is the reality of it. Every time you repeat an old move, shut down, explode, check out, blame, run, you're reinforcing the neural pathways in the belief system you inherited. You're not just living your life, you're living their life, right? On autopilot, right? The shadow isn't some monster hiding under your bed. The shadow is a part of you that's loyal to pain. Because guess why? It feels familiar. And this is the thing, most men never question it. They call it fate or personality or it's just the way things are. But science, psychology, and lived experience all say the same thing, right? You're not just a product of your environment, you're an extension of your bloodline's unfinished business, right? The pain that you refuse to face becomes the inheritance you will pass on to future generations. It's fucking unbelievable, right? But let's look at where your energy is bleeding out, right? Where your masculine power is quietly leaking away day by day, year by year. right? And the first leak we're going to look at is avoidance. Every time you dodge a hard conversation or you numb out instead of facing pain or distract yourself with comfort, you pay a hidden tax. Your nervous system never gets a chance to discharge the stress. It just buries it deeper and deeper. And over time, right, what you avoid just doesn't disappear, it grows roots. Right? And the result, chronic fatigue, low drive, anxiety, or just constant sense that you're just off. Right? Like you're living someone else's life. Right? The next leak is self-betrayal. When you break promises to yourself, I'll quit drinking, I'll get fit, I'll be a better dad, and then you let yourself off the hook. What happens is then you reinforce the idea that your word does not matter. Every unkept promise chips away at your self-trust. Right? And the biology backs this up. Failure to act on your own intentions, it will likely weaken your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that governs decision making, right? And also impulse control. So in other words, every time you back down, it gets easier to keep backing down. Every time you lie to yourself, it gets easier to lie to yourself, right? And another leak is resentment, right? Especially the kind that you swallow instead of speaking, right? You think that you're keeping the peace, but inside you're fucking burning down, right? Suppressed anger doesn't go away. It mutates into sarcasm, passive aggression, or physical symptoms like headaches, high blood pressure, or even autoimmune issues. The body stores what the mind will not process. Right? Then we look at blame and victimhood. Fuck, man, this is something that I struggled with my whole life. Right? Every time you point the finger, right, at your parents, your boss, your partner, the system, you give away your power to change. Right? The longer you blame, the longer you stay stuck. Your brain learns helplessness. Right? So why try? I have no control. Right? This isn't just, philosophy. Right? This is actual research. Right? On learned helplessness. And it shows how the chronic victim actually rewires the brain for inaction, right? And the most insidious leak, right? The story that you're doomed by your bloodline. It's in my genes, my family, my fate, right? This story is fucking bullshit because it lets you off the hook but keeps you in chains, right? Neuroscience now shows that while genetics, they load the gun, but your environment and your choice, they pull the trigger or they put the gun down. Okay, and then we look at the final leak of isolation. Right, when you try and carry this burden alone, refusing to speak up or get help or join an honest brotherhood, you double the load and you cut yourself off from the very energy and wisdom that could lift you up. Right, men are pack animals by design. Right, ancient warriors didn't fight alone for a reason. And these leaks aren't random. They're the byproduct of survival strategies that once kept you safe. But now you no longer fucking need them. And if they're left unchecked, they guarantee you pass the same shit, the same wounds, the same trauma, the same pain to everyone around you. And if you want to reclaim your energy, your edge, your life, you have to face where you're losing it. Head on. No bullshit. No more hiding. Right? And I'll tell you a little story, about myself and the realization I had. And this wasn't in some fucking courtroom or I wasn't locked up. It wasn't, some breakdown. It was in the hallway of my own house. Right? I was walking up the stairs and I was heading to my room and my son's room's just here on the left hand side. I was walking past my son's door and I heard him kind of talking to himself under his breath. And it was nothing like, crazy. He wasn't screaming. He was just saying, I'm so stupid. I always mess up. And then he sighed and he threw his toy, on the floor and it just went quiet. And I just stood there and I froze because see that voice, that frustration, that self-hate, that was me, right? Not my voice now, but my old one. The one that I used to hear in my own head when I was 15, hungover, feeling ashamed. The one that led me into the fucking chaos, the addiction, the years of punishment because I thought I deserved it. And now, here it was, leaking onto my own son. Not because I taught it directly, but it's because it's what I used to embody. And no amount of I love yous or hugs can undo the energy kids absorb, right? Especially when you're still fighting your demons silently. And I'd done that for a long time. I put my family through hell. I wasn't until I was 40 that I got sober, or 39, just coming up to 40. Right? So they had to experience all that. And at that point there, my son was, 2, maybe 3 years old. But even when I got sober, I was still battling silently because I didn't want to put the burden on anybody else. And when that happened with my son, it crushed me because I had a massive realization. Even though I had changed my habits, even though I was sober, I was training, I was showing up, right? I hadn't fully changed the story that I lived from. And that story was then getting passed on to my son and future generations. I thought I was protecting them by keeping my past separate, by not talking too much about what I'd been through, right? By pretending I was good now. But silence doesn't break curses. Truth does, right? And that night I went in his room and I sat on the floor with him. And I told him what I wish someone told me. That voice in your head isn't you. And you do not have to believe it. Right? And then I shared a bit about my truth. Right? Obviously age appropriate stuff, but real. I told him that I used to feel like that. That I used to think that I had to get everything right to be loved. I told him what I believe now. That I love you no matter what. Right? That being strong isn't about never failing. It's about staying close to yourself when you do. Right? That conversation never just helped him. It helped me. It rewired me. Because I wasn't just parenting him. I was reparenting my younger self. That is a sacred moment that you look in the mirror. And it wasn't a relapse in a hospital bed in a jail cell. Right? But it was a reflection of my unhealed story. Right? And in the eyes of a boy I would die for. Right? And that's the day that I knew that this lineage of pain, this silence, this shame, and this self-abandonment, it ends with me. Right? And I started building something new. So now I actually go into his school. I've spoke with his class, my daughter's class, the high school, and I share my life experience, what addiction done to me. And I stand there proud, and my children are proud. Now they know so much about me now. Right, and they don't know all the gory details of the horrible things that I done to land me in horrible places, but they know that I was never this person. I had to do a lot of work to overcome my demons, right? And I had to go through a lot of pain and struggle to be the man I am today, the man that they look at and the man that they're proud of. Not perfect, but real, honest, and free. Right? And this is the thing. This is not a new battle that we go through. Men have been fighting this for thousands of years, just with different weapons and different stories. Right? What did the samurai say? The greatest victory is mastery of self, not the world, not your enemies, your own habits, emotions, and reactions. They believed that you could train your spirit with the same way that you trained your sword, right? Through daily discipline, ruthless honesty, and refusing to be ruled by fear or anger. Right? And the Stoics were the same. Right? Marcus Aurelius said, you can choose, he said, you can't choose your ancestors, but you can choose your legacy. Right? Epictetus, what did he say? First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Right? Their message, you might inherit your father's pain, but you decide to pass it on. Right? In every tribe, there's a man who said, the pain stops with me. He wasn't the strongest. He was just the one who refused to stay silent or numb. He faced the darkness his ancestors ran from, and he turned it into the light for those who followed. And that's what it means to be a real fucking warrior. And you're not in this alone. You're walking a path men have walked for ages. Ordinary men who became awakened savages. They became the turning point in their bloodline. Right? That's the tradition that you belong to now. Right? And this isn't just about breaking bad habits or upgrading your mindset. This is soul work, plain and simple. You're not just a man in a body. You're the living edge of your bloodline, the next expression of every ancestor who came before. Destiny isn't a fucking lottery ticket. It's a responsibility. You were born into this line for a reason. The universe does not do random, right? You are here right now, watching me right now for a reason, right? Because see, right now, at this time, you have the strength, the vision, and the will to end what others could not do. And if you feel that restlessness in your gut, the sense that you're meant for more, that your life is supposed to carry weight, then fucking trust that, brother. Because your soul is waking up. This is not about chasing perfection. It's about choosing purpose, stepping up to be the man that your family and the world needs right now. It's time to stand up, brother. Right? This is where the talking ends and the change begins. Right? And let's look at how we can break these chains step by step. Okay, step number one. You have to identify the pattern. You have to get brutally honest with yourself. Name the bloodline chain that's been running your life. Anger, addiction, silence, playing small, betrayal, whatever it is. Mine was anger and addiction. Right? Don't sugarcoat it. Write it down, black and white. And if you can't name it, you cannot change it. Right? So, set 10 minutes aside with no distractions. Ask yourself, what's the one pattern in my family that keeps showing up in me? Right? Write down the first honest answer that comes. Anger, emotional shutdown, addiction, avoiding conflict, cheating, stealing, settling for less, whatever is real. Be specific. Not, my family has issues, but my father never apologised. I do the same. Or, addiction runs in my blood. I drink when stressed, just like my father did, my uncle did, my great-grandfather did. Right? The key is, don't rationalise it, don't soften it, call it for what it is. Right? And, I'll give you an example. You see, my grandfather was an angry man, right? He was quick to fucking go to anger, shouting, throwing things, never listening. And my dad, even though he was out of my life at a young age, but he was the same because my mum told me that he would get angry, but he was a bit quieter about it. And I swore that I would never be that guy, right? But see, when my children and my partner pushes my buttons, I can find myself fucking really shooting up, raising my voice, slamming doors, and I spoke about it in another video, scaring my own kids with my shouting, and not really that much anymore. But the chain that is anger, right? I wrote it down. I carry my family's anger, and it's showing up in my life. And it was the same with the addiction, right? So step number two, own your responsibility. It's easy to blame your parents or the past, but you're a grown fucking ass man now. This is your fight. You didn't start it, but it's yours to finish. Right? Out loud, say it. This ends with me. Right? Stand up, look in the mirror, and say it out loud. This ends with me. Feel the discomfort. Don't shy away. Remind yourself you're not responsible for what happened to you, but you're responsible for what you do with it now. Right? If it helps, text a friend or tell someone you trust. I'm done blaming. I'm breaking this fucking pattern right now. Right? And for years, I blamed, my parents for my short temper, my anger, my emotional distance. But there was a day after I had an argument with my wife, right? And this was probably only about 18 months ago. And I stood in front of the mirror and I said, this is mine now. I didn't start it, but I'm going to fucking finish it. This ends with me. And yes, it felt awkward, but it's also powerful. Okay? Step number three, interrupt the cycle. Right? When you feel that old pattern rising, right? Rage, avoidance, the urge to check out, just pause, literally stop, breathe, right? Breathe into your belly and choose a new response. Maybe that means apologizing instead of shutting down. Maybe it's reaching out for help instead of trying to go it alone. Maybe it's refusing to repeat the same argument or reaction. One move is enough to fucking break this spell. Right? So how do you do it? Right? So just think about it, right? Next time you feel, an old pattern coming in, right? Rage, right? Or the urge to shut down, right? Or even the urge to go and get drunk. Just pause, take 3 deep breaths and ask yourself, what would it look like to do something different? And then in that moment of presence, take a new action. If you'd normally shout, lower your voice or walk away. If you'd avoid, the conversation, step into the conversation. If you would numb out, call a friend, or go for a walk. See, one small change in the moment is all it takes to start breaking these chains, brother. Right? And I've shared this before. I used to explode I used to explode at my kids over small things. Right? Spilled milk, homework not done. Right? And I'd yell, and then after it, I'd feel guilty as fuck. Right? But I've worked on it. Right? For example, we were on holiday last week. Right? And I told my son he was wanting cereal, and we were in this lodge, and I said to him, "Don't take that into the bedroom, right? In case you spill it." Okay? But anyway, guess what he does? He takes it into the bedroom, and guess what happens? He spills it on the bed. And I felt the anger rising, right? I felt it. But I caught myself. I stepped back, and I just took 3 deep breaths. And I said, "Son, come on, I told you that, but let's clean this up together. No shouting, right?" And I did see a different reaction from my son, right? But I seen the reaction myself. I realised that I've changed something that my father never. Okay? Step number 4, right? Don't keep your breakthrough private. Tell your story. Share your shift with your brother, your partner, your kids. Every time you speak the new truth, you make it more real, rewiring your mind and your legacy. Right? So just for example, or after you've done something different, talk about it. Share it with your partner, a friend, somebody you trust. Don't act like it's nothing, because it's not. It's massive. Acknowledge it out loud. Today I stopped the old pattern. I'm fucking proud of that. The more you name it, the more it becomes part of who you are. Tell your story, even if it feels small. Like when you do that, you reinforce your new identity every single time. Right? And remember, the best performers aren't just physically strong. They're masters at breaking old patterns fast. They don't repeat what doesn't serve. Your legacy is your greatest performance, and this right now is your training ground. And this isn't just self-help. This is spiritual work, right? Universal law says what you change in yourself, you change in your world, right? Your courage ripples out, right? Energy, blood, destiny. When you act differently, you don't just rewrite your story, you shift your whole fucking bloodline. And yes, none of this is easy. That's why so few men actually do it. But every time you take these steps, you cut the chain by one more link. It's slow at first, but see, over time, it changes everything for you, for your family, for everyone who comes after you. This is legacy work, brother. Right? And this isn't just about you. You're not a slave to your past. Right? And you're not just a product of your bloodline. You are the ancestor your family has been waiting for. Every new choice, every pattern you break, every act of courage, this is the new DNA you leave behind. Right? Spiritually, this is what you were born for. You're not just a random branch, you're the fucking root. Right? The law is simple. The energy you bring, the pattern you break, becomes the new frequency your family lives by. That is true impact. So take a moment to feel the weight and the privilege of that. Your ancestors lived through wars, trauma, betrayals, heartbreak. Some of them broke others, some of them broke themselves. But you're the pivot point. The man who says, no fucking more. The one who ends the suffering instead of passing it on. Legacy isn't some fancy word for your tombstone. It's the ripple effect of every action you take, every truth you speak, every chain you break. The world might not remember your name, but your family, your sons, your daughters, your brothers, your grandchildren will live freer because you made a different choice. Fucking don't shrink from that, brother. Stand in it. That's real power. That's real manhood. You are the bloodline breaker, the generational curse breaker. Right? And if you're ready to start with the action, I'm going to give you a field mission. Right? No excuses. Right? Number 1, name the chain. Write down one pattern you refuse to pass on. Right? Maybe it's anger, emotional silence, addiction, running from responsibility, whatever it is. Name it. Take one action your father or your grandfather never took. Right? If your bloodline always avoided saying, I'm sorry, then you apologize today. If nobody in your family showed affection, you hug your son or call your brother. Right? If your legacy was silence, you speak up. Even if the chain was scarcity, you invest in your own growth. right? Number 3, anchor it. Tell someone, your partner, your children, your friends, right, what you're doing and why you're doing it. The more real you make it, the more you shift this energy for everyone. Okay? And give me a comment below, right? What's the chain that you're breaking? What's the action that you're taking this week? Not next week. Now, what you doing? Don't just watch. Step into the mission. When you comment, you hold yourself accountable. When you act, you set your bloodline free. Right? No more waiting for someone else. No more blaming the past. You are the bloodline breaker. You are the generational curse breaker. The world needs you. Your family needs you. So let's fucking do this, brother. Right? And if you want to join me on this journey, subscribe to the channel. Right? I'm dropping videos every single week, 3 times a week. I'm here. I respond to all comments myself. I'm just a one-man band trying to create a movement of men who are ready to level up and claim their legacy. And as always, I appreciate every single one of you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you so much for being on this journey with me. I love you guys. I love you guys. So have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one. I've got a video here, and you can subscribe here. Take care.